Hey there, health and wellness fans. Good evening and welcome to episode 5 of the YCast, the podcast that's reinventing the way men think about their health and well-being and their life, one conversation at a time. I'm Tony LaRosa. The guy across from me is my partner and co-founder of Project Y, Rob Davidson. Rob, how are you tonight?
I'm good. How about you, buddy?
I'm doing well.
Right.
We have some rain.
Yeah, we do have some rain. Yeah, we need rain though, but we got to be careful. Yeah. Too much is not good for California,
right?
Because of the mudslides potential on the burn scars.
Yeah, it's one thing after another. I was talking to some friends today from the East Coast, and they're just like, "How are you still alive?"
California doesn't seem like that great place anymore. What happened to paradise, right? Yeah.
Every time one tragedy ends, something else happens, and we just got to stay on our toes. But
can you send some of that rain to Arizona?
Yeah, yes. We're going to send that over, Keith. Absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, I remember a few weeks ago, Keith, it was so bad here. I was asking you to send us rain.
I remember that.
Yes.
I was like, no dust storms. Just send some water.
Exactly.
Right. But hey, we got an exciting show for you guys tonight. Podcast tonight was designed to kind of help men navigate, through the turbulent landscape of self-love and, just rewriting that inner story. We all need self-love, right, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we got a really great guest on tonight. Her name is Rebecca Schocker, and she's a transformative and mindset coach.
Right.
So she helps a lot of people, mostly men who, are in a flux and, need to find themselves and she
has a lot of good things to say. I'm excited to hear her. And I know she does those men's retreats as well.
Yep.
So she works with a lot of, men that are, lost a little bit or, they get into a rut and I guess helps, help them break out of that, that invisible ceiling, so to speak. So,
yeah. Well, we'll let her kind of tell us exactly what she does, because this is a new area for you and I. I think we both have been in that position at some points in our life.
I think everybody has, actually.
Yeah.
Men and women.
This is why I love this topic, because I think every man could relate. Every man and woman can relate, but men especially, we're trying to get men to acknowledge this. Yep. But hey, before we do, I wanted to, we get throughout the week, I get emails and messages and comments.
How come I never get any? It's unbelievable. All right.
You're blocked.
I'm blocked, exactly.
A lot of people ask, what do you guys do? Where do you come from and what's your background, kind of thing. So I thought it'd be interesting just to take a few minutes before we introduce Rebecca. Just kind of quick backgrounds of both of us.
Sure.
Just let everyone know how we got into the health and wellness sector, or so we're not just a couple of guys on a podcast, talking about some stuff we want to do.
Well, we are a couple of guys on
we
podcast,
are a couple very handsome guys.
Yes.
So if you want to start out, Rob, and
sure, I could. Yeah, absolutely. I know you know the story. You probably heard it 100 times already. But I always was interested in health and wellness, fitness. I played sports, so that was natural for me. But when I was 18, maybe 19, actually 18 and a half, so to speak. And I'm not going to tell you what year, because then I'm aging myself.
Right.
But, I was diagnosed with Lyme disease, which was one of the first cases on the East Coast, actually. Not a lot of people knew about it. And I went to different doctors, maybe 5 or 6 doctors, and no one knew what was wrong. I mean, I felt like crap. I was tired. I think I almost fell asleep on driving home.
Right.
Heart palpitations, all the different symptoms. Excuse me. So I wanted to know. So I started doing a lot of research, medical research. I talked to many different types of doctors. There was actually an osteopathic doctor that said, "Hey, have you been tested for Lyme?" Because he took the time to ask me my history and to ask me where I was, what I did for that summer.
Right.
So I decided to go into the field, did pre-med, and then did public health, epidemiology, my master's degrees. And then I did my doctorate in infectious disease, as you know, in health sciences. So I've always been in it, and started a company that you and I worked with early on.
Yep.
What was it, 1996, 7?
We
were 12 when we did it. But, biotech, biopharmaceutical. That's what we do today. We're really more about equity in healthcare, trying to get medicine to areas that are difficult to reach. And really, we believe that to be sustainable as a society, that healthcare should be available to everybody. And that's kind of been our goal in life, I think, in our careers. So that's kind of where, why I started and, why I'm here and why we want to educate people about health.
Yeah. Well, not to mention, I mean, I think you're cutting yourself a little short too on a lot of stuff you're doing, but you're donating a lot of your time.
You said keep it short.
True, I did. You're coaching, you're involved in a lot of really great charities, which we're going to get to probably next week and talk about that. Because you just got back from Africa. We're going to save that. So myself, for those of you who don't know, pretty much the same story, like the beginning of the same story, because Rob and I have been friends for like 32 years now. So very
Remember
soon,
kindergarten?
Yeah.
Anyway.
And when you hit your head. So when we first met, we were, kind of peddling dietary supplements and, always working out, playing basketball and doing that thing. So, and I always played sports in high school. Absolutely. And, so I think it's just part of our lives, and then, getting into the bio tech.
Pharmaceutical biotech. Yeah. Both, right? Wellness
overall, with you. And, we opened up, CMS in 2000. So we've been, really focused on drug delivery and putting products out there for wellness and, just improving lifestyle. Because I think that's a key factor, the way we say, like, improving people's lives and things like that. And then, my dad got cancer and
I was hoping you would touch on that because that's really what drove you the most, I would think.
Yeah, I think it kind of put me over the edge and said, like, I want to do this because my dad was in a situation where, like, he didn't know any better and he only had me to kind of help him besides the doctors, but, doctors go through the
That's
same
a whole
thing.
nother show though. If you don't have a health advocate or somebody that does the research with you, not just relying on the doctors, medical system. You can be in trouble. And that's a different show, but we can talk about that.
Well, especially the important things, I think, when you consider like eating and sleeping and maintaining focus, that stuff, you're not in the hospital trying to, cure that stuff. You're at home you're with your family and you need people that can help you focus on that stuff.
Well, there's a bifurcation between, healthcare and sick care. And I think our system is more aligned with sick care, taking care of that disease, rather than healthcare, which is more of, what you're talking about, this more holistic approach. And when I say holistic, I don't mean it in the natural pathway. What I mean is looking at everything, sleep, like you said, rest, nutrition, what you eat, supplements, and everything you do. That's really healthcare, and that's really the definition of healthcare, and it should be. And hopefully, we're going to start going that direction. But
and I think the whole idea of being able to create something like a formula and be able to apply that to different indications and the creativity behind that, and we've launched brands together, so we built companies together. So I think it's been a fun experience.
It's been amazing.
We've been able to, share our knowledge of health and wellness, and the people we associate ourselves within our network. They're always asking us questions and, what are you guys doing? What's your routine like in the gym? And what are you guys eating and things like that? So I think that's kind of what, gives that just that feeling of appreciation, for what we're doing.
Agreed. So, no, that's a good way to put it. Absolutely. And I like that you touched on the creative part because, what we do is science. It's very heavily science, but it's also art, right? And there is a creativity behind that. Especially when you're trying to get patients to take a medicine or for it to be more efficacious, they have to like it. So we deal with flavorings. We deal with recipes in a sense, right? Formulations.
Exactly.
So it's kind of that combination of art and science. So that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah. And, I've been an artist for a long time. So science is, for the most part, it's pretty boring. right? I mean, for me, maybe not for you,
right.
But as you get into it and you understand how these things interact and different mechanisms of what we do and the kind of drug delivery systems that we put together, it is pretty fascinating.
Without doubt.
So I think that pretty much sums it up for Rob and I on our backgrounds. We'll be continue to talk about ourselves enough as we go, I'm sure. But if you guys have any other questions, you can drop us a message in our inbox, LinkedIn, any of our socials. We'll be happy to answer. But yes, we do have Project Y will be launching 3 products here in the next few weeks, just finalizing some packaging and stuff like that. But these products are made internally here at our facility where we formulate and manufacture everything. And right now, the products that we're going to be launching are we have 3. We have anti-aging, or I should say, age-defying cream. It's great. We use it.
I like that you brought the samples. That's good.
Yeah, good sample. I don't have the other 2.
Okay, well, all right. You tried.
And then we have this eye serum, this tightening eye serum, which is great. And then we have shampoo, which I use every night.
Yeah. I do wonder why, but okay, we can talk about that on another show.
It's the smell. It's the aromatherapy. Did you say
I think one important aspect too that you guys missed when it comes to what you do is you're empowering people to take back their own health too. I think we become so dependent on the medical system. People, anytime they felt any type of ailment, they just run to the doctor, right? And I think that's really important that you guys do is you help people take control of it by educating people. So I think that's important.
Well, yeah, I think that's, I mean, education in general, right, on that subject is so key to being able to, take control of your own health. No question about it.
Yeah. No, and it's just about like, it could be a simple conversation with someone that they don't know and they're just learning, and
without doubt.
And it opens up a lot of doors, to your health. And you've done that for me actually, because like with the blood work and everything, I know we talked about this before, but just kind of understanding like, okay, I should know what this means.
Right.
And it definitely helps.
Well, it's important because people get their blood tests or results back and they're looking at it and they really don't know what it means,
right?
What those ranges mean. So yeah, I agree.
So anyway, but yeah, thank you, Keith. I mean, I think we're kind of behind the scenes, so we're not seeing it from your perspective. But yeah, I mean, it's been pretty rewarding, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm super excited tonight to explore the power of self-acceptance and self-love, and how it transforms your life and the world around you, because society is super cruel out there today.
Yeah, especially now, right, with social media.
Yeah. And the society and the world is constantly telling us how to live, right?
How to look, how to live, right? How to feel, right? Yeah.
And but what do we want? Like what do we really want to do instead of listening? Because you got to kind of fall into that whole thing, and how do we take control of our lives, like you were saying earlier. So we're going to dive in today, and I want to introduce our guest, who is Rebecca Schocker. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I'm going to tell you who she is, and then she's going to say, well, no, I do this, but she's a professional mindset and transformative coach, Rebecca Schocker. Where is she? There she is. Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm well.
Doing great. Thank you for coming on. Really appreciate you being here to learn from you. Number one, I was saying, this is new territory for Rob and I, and we were talking before the show how, every man has gone through this at some point where, you question yourself. There's not enough mirrors to make you feel good. You always have to kind of reflect, and at some point get some feedback from someone to be able to, transform your life and be in that mindset. And before you, I want to hear your background, if you will, Rebecca, but I want to tell everyone you can find Rebecca at realwithrebecca.com. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my website. So.
Okay.
Great. Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So yeah, if you want to kind of give us a little bit of your background and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Rob, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Of course. No, we're excited.
Here. Yeah. I'm excited to talk. So
yeah, absolutely. Great. That's great.
So let's see. Where do I begin my background? I guess I could say that I lived my life. I did everything backwards, right?
Mhm.
So I had a baby first, then I went to school, then I got married, then I had more kids, went through a divorce. And it was during that transition that I realized I needed something more for myself, right? I'd always had this feeling inside of me that I felt like something was missing. And that probably started when I was 17. And I didn't quite know what that was, but I took the traditional path and I did what I thought any woman is supposed to do, right? Go to
Mhm.
school, you get married, you have kids, you do that whole thing. And during my divorce, I realized that like I was selling real estate at that time, just part-time, basically just something to do. My heart was never in it. I kind of only saw dollar signs with real estate,
Mhm.
but I got to this point that I was like, I wanted to make more of an impact. I went to school. I have a degree in social work and really big into psychology, personal development. And it was through that time and my own actual spiritual journey and kind of finding like, who is Rebecca? Especially since I had a baby at a young age and got married young. I didn't ever have that time in my early 20s to really figure out who I was and what I wanted. So, that came out, in the result of a divorce, which wasn't ideal, but that's just kind of the story and how it happened, how it unfolded. So I found I was actually hosting an open house and I stumbled across a health video like on YouTube or something about becoming a health coach. And a light bulb went off. And I was like, I'm doing this. This is what I want to do. And I knew actually my first year of college, I knew that I wanted to be a life coach. I just didn't think that I had enough life experience. So
Mhm.
basically, I went out and gave myself a ton of life experience from that, first year of college all the way up until I went through my divorce. And at that point, it was really important for me to be able to still provide and be available for my kids because they were used to having their mom available and being there. I didn't want to disrupt that as I was going through a divorce. I didn't want to be the stereotypical, stressed out, overwhelmed single mom,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So what am I going to do? I started a coaching business. I threw thousands of dollars at this and they threw a bunch of templates at me. And it wasn't exactly what I needed or what I was looking for, but it got me started, right?
Mhm.
So I started coaching health and wellness and mindset, and it was actually training women in the gym. But I realized very, very quickly that I didn't like that. It was like the gym is for me. I like doing that for my personal self.
Right.
And I realized too that it's not about what these women were doing physically or what they were eating. It was their mindset,
Right.
right? And so from there, I started focusing a lot on mindset and I picked up my first life coaching client. And then I picked up my first male client. And I resisted the men for a long, long time. I was like, I don't want to work with men, right? I don't want that. And so instead of resisting it because it kept showing up, I started to embrace it. And I realized very, very quickly that,
Thank you.
well, you're welcome. It wasn't my plan.
Yeah.
It's kind of just what the universe gave me. So I went with it and I had to do some deep analysis within myself of like, okay, Rebecca, you've always had male friends. You've always been a guy's girl. You speak boy, right?
Right, right.
You're a very direct communicator. And I found over the course of the years is that really resonates with men.
Mhm.
I can be direct. I can speak, how I need to speak. And there's no bullshit. There's no fluff. Like I'm a straight
Right.
shooter. And that resonates with men.
Yeah, good.
So
Yeah.
for the past 8 years, I've worked with men, I've worked with women, I've worked with children, young adults, and now it's predominantly just men.
Yeah.
What made that click, just out of curiosity? I mean, I know you
Yeah.
said you resisted it, but what clicked? Like, because you can be direct, it resonated better, or what was the reasoning? If you
Okay, I'm
don't
going
mind?
to be truthful here.
Yeah, yeah,
Can I be?
please
Okay.
They obey.
be truthful.
Okay, so
Don't worry, I talk to Tony all the time.
so women are great students, right?
Right.
They're great learners, they're great listeners, but women sometimes are too much in their feelings and their emotions.
Mm.
And I am not, me personally, I'm not an emotional person like that.
Right.
And so I felt that I could connect better with men, right?
Okay.
Because
Makes sense, yeah.
I'm not like your typical female where in my emotions or I don't know how to regulate them. So it was kind of like just listening to all these signs and what was showing up for me and what was in front of me was like, okay, Rebecca, it's men. So just focus on men. But with that, through this journey, I've realized like men actually they need a space.
Yeah.
They need a space where they can feel comfortable, where they can be vulnerable, where they can open up, and they can have somebody that they trust to talk to.
Yeah.
And sometimes men like the female perspective.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
I would think so. I would maybe even easier to speak to a female sometimes about that than other men because of that, you know,
not being judged.
Right.
Yeah.
Not being judged. And there's a stigmatism about that, right? Too, if you think about it. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to say how I feel to another guy. They're gonna think, you know, I don't know, I'm not masculine enough, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So I would think that makes sense to me.
I think that it's the perfect
not stigmatism. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was thinking eyes.
No, I think like our instinct with Project Y was correct in the sense that we immediately said why we have the male female component to this is that women are going to be the ones who get men to the finish line. I really feel that. I think that we all have a significant other in our lives who's a female, whether it be your mom, sister, friend, you know, wife, whoever. That's driving the driving force for men as far as like I would say most. I mean, obviously there's exceptions out there, but I would say for the most part, because I think, you know, we all kind of feel that. So I think that's why potentially why, you know, you acclimated to men as you know, clients, because they're probably more receptive to what you're saying and they probably follow your orders better.
I think it's the best of both worlds, honestly, because you get the female perspective. I'm soft, I'm nurturing, I'm gentle, right? But also being that I work with men, I can be direct, right? I can be firm.
Right.
So and men sometimes need that, right? But they also need to be able to understand how to sit in their feelings and how to understand their emotions. And I think with men are not taught, like man to man, they don't do that, right? You may have conversations that you wouldn't have with females around, right? That's guy talk.
But it's very different. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's different. So when you have this female perspective, not only does it help you understand yourself, it helps you understand the relationship that you're in or any other relationship for that matter.
Right. And I think like what you and I were talking about the other day, Rebecca, on the phone was, you know, this is probably something men, oh, well, a woman is accepting this. This is from a woman's perspective. So it must be, you know, it must be an attractive quality to be emotional, to have self-love and respect. And that's why I think it's a big component that you're offering to men specifically.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I would say it's one of the most attractive traits that a man can have is emotionally intelligent, healed, emotionally mature.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's able to recognize that in himself and heal that.
Yeah. And I still think men still have to have like a balance where, you know, because we do want to ask you about the whole masculinity thing, but you know, finding that balance between, you know, having self-love, having that side to you, being masculine, taking care of the family and doing these things. And, you know, women do those things as well. But I just want to, you know, point out that it's a balancing act for men. And I think if you kind of understand how to do that, then I think it's more accepting. You can embrace it more rather than just like, okay, I don't know how to deal with this self-love or respect for myself. So I'm not going to go there.
Yeah.
But I think you're giving men an opportunity to educate themselves and to, you know, find a new perspective.
Absolutely. And I think the first thing we need to ask is, what is it to be a masculine man? Like, what does that look like? Let's define that, right? We have a skewed
Keith,
version.
you got the camera on me? Okay.
But
we're going to put the X across that.
What is masculinity? What is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
it's a big macho man that he's strong and tough and he goes out and chops wood and lives his life that way. Like, what is it to be masculine? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. You tell us.
I mean, yeah, well, but she brings up a good point
Yeah.
because, society has its own, society norms back then, 20 years ago, 30 years, it changes all the time, right? It does morph quite a bit.
Yeah.
As as generations go on.
Mm-hmm.
But where is that? Where does that fall? What is masculinity?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think men should still be masculine,
Yeah.
but what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right. So
I think men need to be men.
Right.
Yeah.
Men need to be men.
Yeah.
Men need to be men and live in their true authentic self, like whatever that looks like for them. Right.
Right.
It's not about what you look like or what you do.
Right.
It's who are you as a person, right?
Right.
I
There's
agree.
no ideal version. I don't think you need to be a whiny little baby and wear your emotions on your sleeve all the time. I think that's too far to the other side,
I
right?
tell Tony that quite a bit. Yeah.
It's about finding that balance, right?
Yeah. There's a balance. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree.
But I like what you're saying. I think, again, I would say most people should have the wherewithal, or most men should have the wherewithal to be able to know who they are at a certain point, in a sense where they can feel comfortable with that, instead of, okay, well, do I need to go chop the wood or what,
But do they? And is that a condition of society only, or is it, you got society and then you got probably the dad has a lot of influence and the mom has a lot of influence on how that boy grows up to be a man, right? And what that really means. So I think that's something you probably touch on, I would think, in your discussions.
I think there's roles. I think I mean, there are ideals of how men are to be perceived and how women are to be perceived, and there's energies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if a man grows up with this idea of he has to be X, Y, and Z, is he meeting those needs? Is he living in that space, right?
Right.
Nothing external, right? And so we have it wrong as a society. We
that
think
I agree with. Yeah.
It's not external.
Right.
It's internal, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't matter how you display that outwardly to the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's about what you feel internally and if you are living up to that potential within yourself.
Yeah, I agree with that. Absolutely.
And I would also say, like, kind of what you brought up, I think briefly, was that, let's just say there's a married couple and you've taken on specific roles, whatever they are. As long as both of you are comfortable in whatever roles they are, I think that's amazing. And if you can each embrace each other's roles in that relationship, I think that's where men should be comfortable, but I still think men are probably a little gun shy to really be who they are in certain relationships. I know I've been there myself in my earlier days.
Yeah. And I think to me, it's being in that energy, right? And and I kind of lost train of my thought, but I think you have this idea of who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to show up. And when you can be in your full masculine energy, you allow the woman to be in her full feminine energy. Right?
I love that. Yeah.
And you can blend them together, right?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily about the roles or how you look or what you do.
Right.
It's blending those energies.
Yeah.
Right.
So those, I would say that would, we're going into that topic of fulfilling unrealistic expectations, whether it's in a relationship or, whether it's in society. But yeah, there are a couple of things, I wanted to throw at you, Rebecca, and see if you have dealt with this in your work and your services. And because there are things I always want to kind of know and work out in my life. And I know friends of mine and people I know that are, kind of dealing with the same things. We need these answers.
Yeah.
So don't feel pressured. But I mean, a big thing for us, financial success is everyone I know started out from the bottom. And I think we were talking earlier about like being the breadwinner, achieving, certain income level, at your job. Everybody has to own property today and this and that. And so, where I'm going. Have you dealt with a lot of that, like with men coming in and found their like self-respect so low because of this aspect of their lives?
because of their financial status.
Yeah, like that status, that success, and,
Right, right.
what society and maybe even what your family
Sure.
hold you to.
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
great question.
it's the pressure that's put on men, right? So they have this pressure based on these beliefs that they have adopted from early childhood.
Mhm.
And so they have this pressure of thinking that you need to attain this financial success. You need to have this property. You need to have this house. And it's like a checklist, right?
Yeah.
So, and if you don't reach that, what does that mean about you? And honestly, it means nothing, right? It's what you've chosen to believe about yourself and life and who you're comparing your life to. Has nothing to do with that. And it's not men's fault in that sense, right? This is societal conditioning. This is generational. This is past childhood experiences, right? And so all of this builds up from a belief system that's antiquated.
Yeah,
It's
and they let it define them, though. That's the problem.
And ultimately, those things don't matter.
Yeah.
Right? Those don't matter. So it's about breaking down those old beliefs and realizing that you don't need to do X, Y, and Z, right? You don't have to go out there and have these things unless that's something you really want. And if you have it, it doesn't mean anything about you.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I think either way, if you have a lot, it doesn't mean really much about you. And if you don't, it doesn't define you, right? Material things, money, it really does not define if you're a man or not, in a sense, right?
Well, if you have, especially if you have the right people around you, that none of that matters. But Rebecca, you said something a little earlier. You said comparing yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's what you said. Excuse me if I misquoted, but because I wanted to bring up like social media, because I think that's a huge aspect. Because if you go on Instagram and you see people. Actually, I know this guy I've known for a long time and haven't spoken to him for probably 15 or 20 years. And, I see him on Instagram and he's showing off all of these things that he does not have, but he's purporting this lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I think that's just, it's almost like an epidemic of our society today, that like you have to be at a certain level. So you're constantly comparing with the next guy on Instagram and how am I going to one up that? And, then people go into this false mode of wearing fake jewelry and taking pictures next to fake cars and the lies and the deceit and everything, and it wears you down over time.
Is that coming to a head though in general? I mean, as far as people realizing what you see on Instagram is not real life. Like everyone's always happy. Think life is perfect. Are people understanding that's not real life?
You'd think.
I don't know. I mean, that's
the platforms keep growing.
Yeah.
So,
no, I know they grow for expression.
But yeah, I would think.
Yeah. I mean, do you see that, Rebecca, a lot with men that they say, "Well, I see these guys and they have this and they have that, and I don't." I mean, is that a big deal?
I don't typically see that in my coaching.
Yeah.
First, I would say, like, why are you on Instagram?
Right.
Right.
Right. That's what I say. Yeah.
It's the highlight reel of someo's life that's fake. And someone that's always posting up what they have or what they achieve, how much money they make, it's a false insecurity.
Right. Yeah. Right.
It's a front, right?
Yeah.
And needing validation, wanting that of like, oh, I'm better than you because I have this. Like, be proud of your accomplishments. That's great. But does that really mean anything at the end of the day? If you have these external riches, but you're internally poor?
Right. Well, I like that. That's
I think I wrote down 3 of her quotes already. I like that.
That's good.
I know we kind of touched on a little earlier too about this emotional side of you mentioned like the family growing up and being strong and silent, never showing the vulnerabilities or weaknesses. Where does that play in? Do you see a lot of men coming in like vulnerable, or does it take like multiple sessions and time until you start breaking down those walls?
Well, I'm pretty good at what I do, so I would say it takes a session or 2, but
a session or 2. Oh, that is good.
Yeah, usually 1.
Fast.
I mean, sometimes even I get them in my DMs, right?
Yeah.
But I think we have to realize that men are not taught how to show emotion or to feel their feelings. right? It's huge. And so for a man to be able to sit comfortably and maybe even uncomfortably in his feelings and emotions, that's foreign, right?
Right.
And so how do you open up that space to teach them that it's okay to feel what you feel? It doesn't mean that you're a failure or you're weak, right? Being vulnerable isn't a bad thing. And so to me, it's allowing that space that they can be comfortable enough to open up and express how they're really feeling, because emotions don't lie, right? We all have emotions, we all have feelings, and we get to choose what we want to do with them or what we want to make them mean, right? And I think it's important to recognize that, okay, you feel anxious today or you feel overwhelmed. Why are you feeling that way? Right?
Yeah.
That doesn't mean all of you is overwhelmed and anxious. You're just having an emotion, and that's a cue, and it's almost like an alert sign of our nervous system in our soul of like, hey, something's not right. Like we need to look at something, why we're feeling this way. It's never a bad thing unless you make it be a bad thing and you make it mean something in your life. Right. But if you're not taught that, then what do you do with it? You suppress it, right? You push, oh, I'm just going to ignore it. It's not there. It's not real. It'll go away. Let's pretend it's not there. And that doesn't work, because then it's always there.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had a question.
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, because this is new to me as well. When a man comes to you and says, look, I need some life coaching or counseling, what do they say? I mean, what is the reasoning? What's the primary reasons, if there is a driver or primary, that you see men coming to you and asking?
Yeah, is there something like consistent?
Yeah. What's that consistency? Or maybe there isn't. Maybe they're all different. I don't know. There's variables, obviously. But love to kind of pick your brain on that.
So it's all masked as needing work-life balance, accountability, and clarity.
I like that you said it's masked. That is how they approach it, but that's not the real.
It's masked, but it's not that.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you something that is very, very true for my business. Probably 9% of the people that come to work with me, the core component of what's missing in most of their lives is self-love.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And men are not taught how to love themselves.
Okay.
And that's not their fault, right? And to me, I believe the answer is the more you love yourself, the better life will be.
Yeah.
But a man, if he's not taught how to love himself because he's had this belief system that that's selfish, I got to provide, I got to do this, I got to achieve this, I need to attain this. He's going to view that as that's being selfish. That's not okay. Right. And so who's neglected at the end of the day? Who's the last one on the totem pole? Self, right? So he doesn't take care of himself. Well, if we can teach men that they need to take care of themselves first, then everything else in his life will fall into place. Right. So we have to kind of tip the model upside down.
Okay.
I'd like to know, what's that trigger word for you where, because you said like, I need 1 or 2 sessions, which is great. What's that one trigger word or phrase or component that you hear a man say and you're like, oh, I got it. You don't love yourself or you don't respect yourself. Is there one thing or a path that they go down that you automatically, acknowledge that?
I wouldn't say that in the first session, right? Or maybe I wouldn't say that on a discovery call. Like, you don't love yourself.
No, I'm saying, yeah, of course.
In your mind,
like when you say, okay, I got it. I clicked.
I think it's all coming together as I have these conversations with them. It's not like this one aha moment.
Gotcha.
It's me using my skill set, me being able to read people, paying attention to what they're saying, what they're not saying. And I know the trajectory. I've done this long enough. I've worked with enough men. I know what it is. Right. And so if I can heal that 8-year-old version of that little boy, if we can heal that and tap into that, we can have success. We can have results.
So you're doing Jedi mind tricks, basically.
Well, I don't know if you want to.
It's a bad Star Wars reference.
Exactly.
You did say, you mentioned anxiety and stress. And I think that feeling good, this ties into the other shows that we had about mental health and sexual wellness and, just the basic when we had Rick on last week, we talked about just fitness and supplements and things like that. I'd like to know, I mean, how much of it do you think is, well, let me say this. Does that stuff help? Like, do you notice men coming in and, kind of slunching over and that they're dealing with all this stuff? And then, maybe adding something like exercise to their life or, better eating habits. Do you see like a change in them at the same time? Or would you give yourself all the credit for, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, do you think that it's just the mental emotional side, or do you feel like there's other components that are going to help that? I think it does for me.
Yeah.
But I'd like your perspective on that.
I think when you say yes to working with me or any coach, or I don't know about other coaches, but I'll speak for myself. When you say yes and you execute and you take action, everything in your life changes and improves.
Right.
So I have 5 core pillars that I work on, and I have found that in order to be a whole healthy human, you need to have balance in each of these pillars, right? Otherwise, you're going to go throughout your life and you're going to feel empty. You're going to feel like something's missing, or there's just this discontent, right? So we have to target all 5, and that's your mental, your emotional, your physical, your spiritual, and your financial. And you can't have one without the other, right? And so by saying yes, all of a sudden, guess what? My men start developing a workout routine, right?
Yeah.
And I get them to start journaling, right? And we start questioning things about energy and law of attraction and law of vibration. And we start really tapping into that spiritual side, something bigger, right? Because what happens? They start making more money.
Right.
And so you start to find that balance. And the biggest thing I will say, I never know exactly what, I mean, I guess I generally have an idea when someone comes to work with me, what they really need. But the biggest thing that I have found is what men need is that mental and that emotional. Men have this belief that, oh, I go to the gym, I work out, I'm taking care of myself, right? And that's great. That's one aspect
One
of
component, right?
taking care of your health. For me, I know the gym is my, I need that for my physical, but I also do it for my mental, right? Like if I don't go to the gym for a few days, I don't feel great.
Yeah.
So that it targets both of those. But the thing that I think men lack in that, as I said, it's not anyone's fault. They don't have that emotional and that mental component of like, how do I take care of my emotional health? Well, if you are a man and you don't even know what you're feeling, you don't know how to identify that feeling, and you don't know what to do with it, it's going to feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
When you start anxious or you start to feel pressured or overwhelmed, and you have this feeling, you're like, I feel off today.
Yeah.
And
well, they shove it back down too, right? They never really express it. To your point, you said earlier, basically they don't express it. So that might manifest as anxiety and stress, right? Depression. I mean, that's because they're not releasing it in the ways, in your 5 pillars, in a sense, or that
in
balance.
a healthy way, that and so that's part of the process, is teaching them how to feel it, how to label it, how to process it, and how to let it go. Don't carry it with you. That's too heavy.
You already have enough burdens to carry, right?
Yeah. And have enough on your plate. It's like, don't carry more. Don't add more stress in your life.
Yeah. And do you have like, is there really an age range that come, looking for help? Is it the younger? Is it the middle?
What's your demographic?
What is that demographic? Yeah, exactly.
Typically I'd like to say, I mean, I've worked with people from, like I said, I've worked with young adults, but I would say as of recently, anywhere from 30 to 60.
Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah, that's okay. That's surprising to me.
Yeah.
That's good, but surprising.
Yeah.
I would think,
big range.
Yeah, big range.
Yeah.
Big range, number one. And I always look at, I think younger generation may be more willing to have these types of discussions and conversations, where I think the older, and this is just me, I mean, this is my perspective, it could be very wrong.
Right.
But I would think the older generation really doesn't, they're not open to it. So to get them to come to you, to me, that's a big deal. I'm surprised.
Yeah. Well, we both,
it's a good deal.
You and I both, I know this for a fact, we both have stubborn dads.
Yeah.
They grew up in that, unforgiving lifestyle as young guys. And it took me forever to get my dad to do certain things and to talk about his feelings, especially when he was getting sick. It was like, we had a very short time to, kind of bridge all those gaps. But
But they went through a tougher life than we did, but so that's why. I mean,
Yeah.
that's exactly how that.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a lot. It's unforgiving.
Yeah.
Well, we have more awareness now. I think if you think about social media and the outlet and the exposure to information, right?
Yeah.
So now that we have more light on mental health, personal development, the more that we have that, the more common it's going to become for people to
Sure.
have a coach, to have a mentor. There isn't as bad of a stigma as there once was, like with seeing a therapist, right? They're
Right.
recognizing how important that is to be a whole, healthy human.
Yeah.
I think that's probably pretty accurate.
That's a very good point.
I would say something with the older men really quickly, Rob.
Yeah.
They're actually, I will say I have more men that are 50 plus
Wow.
than I do younger.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they're in a space in their life. They've lived more life. They've
Yeah.
gone through more transition. And now they're at a place in their life that they realize that
They want peace.
well, they want more. And also
Right.
financially they can afford me. Right.
Yeah. Sure.
Sure.
That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't know about that age range.
No, you're over that. Sorry. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think we're talking about relationships, right? And then you and I certainly have dealt with, people that have projecting the insecurities on other friends and family.
Oh, yeah, without doubt.
And, I think that's a big part of it too. I think those types of people have the least amount of self-love and respect. Because, you just don't see, you could tell when you know someone for a little bit or you've been with them a few times, they don't have a lot of friends or they don't have any friends. And, just the vibe they give off, they're constantly projecting their insecurities on other people. And I think that's something that, number one, like we were saying, social media does. And, I think we need to help those type of people, to be able to embrace helping themselves.
Yeah. Well, that's their protected shield you're talking about. And that's why they do that. I think that negativity and just kind of keeping people at a distance.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you probably deal with different types of people. Some guys are empaths, right? Where they do feel things and they have that, that absorption of energy all the time. And probably they're exhausted because they're not expressing their own energy. That's got to be the most difficult type of person, I would think, almost to deal with.
I love working with empaths. Being an empath, I love working with them. It's easy, right?
Is it? Okay. All right.
I attract the most magnificent clients. I will say this. Just because you don't have a lot of friends doesn't mean anything about that person. Personally, I don't have a lot of friends. My social circle is very, very small.
Well, that's good because as you get older, you realize who the friends are. So your circle should be smaller, right?
No, when you realize the importance of your energy and who receives your energy, you don't give it to everyone.
Yeah. So you said it much more elegantly than I did. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I think,
I agree.
I think I'm equating it to, when you have that, what we're talking about, when you don't have self-respect and then you could see that in that person. And then you could see like they don't have a lot of friends by them. And usually like when you know someone and I know you and I learn about Rob through other people, I think that's more what I'm talking about. I mean, obviously, I don't have a lot of friends, but I mean, I know if you spoke to 3 or 4 of my friends, they would say, oh no, he's a stand-up guy. He's, I don't feel like I project any insecurities on anyone,
Right.
So you think we need to reach these people that are projecting and need validation from social media or outside sources? Is that what you are suggesting?
Yeah, I think like there are plenty of people out there that need that help, that are dealing with that type of stuff.
They probably do, but you can't force someone to do that until they're ready, right? Just because you're on this journey and you're this many steps ahead doesn't mean that they're where you're at and they don't have that level of self-awareness.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do you start to get to them? How do you start to teach them and educate them to build their own self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't say that's anyone's job to do that.
Yeah.
Say we all have our own life journey and our own path, and it's sad, and we can empathize with them, and we can say, it's really unfortunate that this guy's this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think for our own personal life, it's like, stop putting your energy out there and looking at other people. Put it on yourself.
Yeah.
Look at yourself. Put your energy on you. What are you doing? How are you showing up?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What are you doing to be a contributing member of society? How are you being a quality man? Right? It's not about what everybody else is doing, because this is your life. And the only person you should care about first is the person staring back at you in the mirror.
That's right. That's why I don't have any mirrors in my house.
There's another reason. So are men more, overall, are men more critical of themselves than, women, or do you find that, and how do you deal with that? Because there are a lot of men that are just never satisfied with where they're at, and they're very critical of, what they do in life and where they're at that point in their life. It could be relationships. It could be anything. Is that common?
I think women are definitely more critical when it comes to their bodies, right?
Okay.
They're critical about their body because they're not satisfied with the way that their body looks. Men, I have experienced some men that are discontent, right? It doesn't matter what they have, what they've achieved.
Mm-hmm.
There's just that underlying feeling of discontent.
Mm-hmm.
And that resonates really well with me because I have been that way in my life, right? I'm very blessed. I'm humbled, and I'm grateful for everything that I have in the life that I've lived. But there's still this motor running kind of ever so quietly of like, I want more. What more can I do, right? And I think men, they want that. And there's nothing wrong with that if you're doing it for the right reasons.
And if you balance.
Yeah.
Why do you want that? What does that mean when you achieve this? Right? Does that mean something to you? Will you be this person when you have that? Will anything change?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I'm a person, we always have to get to the why, right? Like I'm a why person. Why? Why do you want that? What does that mean? Right? And when you understand that, when you have that level of understanding, you can start to solve for it.
Yeah.
And so you can't always be chasing and chasing and chasing, because guess what? You're going to get there and you're going to want more.
Yeah. Type A personality, maybe a little bit.
I mean, it's just, you got to be happy with what you have. And I would say people that are living like that, they're living in the future, and that's going to create anxiety, right?
Yeah.
It's about slowing down, being present, and being grateful for what's in front of you right here, right now.
Yeah.
Right.
But I do think, I mean, you brought up appearance, and
I
mean, that's huge because, I've been in the dating world, and I think it's huge to overcome, because no matter how much self-love you have, I still think like there's so much this abundant pressure everywhere, not just social media, of having to look a certain way and be a certain way. And I think what I love about bringing women into the fold, into Project Y, is I think women are really good about, we all have insecurities, but I think they're really good about directing the conversation, immediately when there's some buzzword out there or something where, your body shaming or something like that. Women are really good at changing the narrative right away and taking control. And I think men need to, kind of stand up for themselves a little bit and be proud of who they are and the way they look, and just own it,
Yeah. I think like men, like, whose Kool-Aid are you drinking? Right? You have this checklist that you're supposed to be at least 6 foot tall, right? You need to make a certain amount of money. You got to look this way. You got to be fit. And it's like, where did that checklist come from? Whose version of that is that? And I would say, if somebody is only chasing you for those things, why are you entertaining it?
Yeah.
Like, why would you even entertain someone if they don't like you because of the way that you look?
Right.
Because bodies change. We're all aging.
Absolutely.
We're all getting older. That's not what makes a quality person. It's not about what you have or what you do or what you look like. It's what's in here, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're receiving that and you're feeling that, like, I can't live up to this pressure, I can't be that. Well, one, I would say, hey, take action in your life. If you don't like the way your body looks, do something about it.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
You can't maybe change certain aspects of the way that you are, like the way that you look. If you have big ears or something, like you can't. I mean, I suppose
You can wear headphones like I do.
like you can get surgery or something, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, my point is, you got to embrace who you are.
Sure.
Right. And when you're secure with who you are and you know who you are, none of that shit matters.
Yeah.
None of it does.
That's
and so
true.
you're looking at the surface.
Yeah. Well, I think recognizing, how to overcome those negative thoughts too. And maybe that's some of what you do is help men figure out, okay, when you're in this situation or you hear this word or you feel this way, this is how to overcome that. So give us a secret.
Yeah. So the very first thing I have my men do is we do a thought audit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I need you to get in touch with your inner dialogue. What are those thoughts that are running through your head? Can you hear it? Most men can't hear it, right? Because they're going on autopilot, going so fast. Slow down, slow your mind. How do you talk to yourself? Do you look in the mirror and be like, oh gosh, I ate or I drank too much or I got to lose some weight? Like, what is that inner dialogue? Pay attention to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the very first thing is you don't judge it. Just pay attention. Just listen. Just observe it, right?
Right.
So once we have established a baseline of what your inner dialogue is, then we can start to change it. And so I call it the observe, stop, and swap method.
Yeah.
Kind of like stop, drop, and roll, right?
Right.
You're going to observe that thought. It's like a passing cloud. You're just going to see this cloud passing by. Oh, I had this thought.
Right.
But it's a negative thought. It's not a very helpful or serving thought. Guess what? You stop it. Stop the thought. Literally stop it. And then you have to swap it with the better feeling thought.
Right.
And instead of saying, oh, I'm feeling lazy today or I'm tired, what's the better feeling thought? I'm gonna do something. I don't like the way that I feel, so I'm going to do something. I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for a walk.
Right.
Right. Or I'm working on becoming the best version of myself. And the thing with that is you have to do it over and over and over again. It's repetition, just like training your muscles in the gym. You got to train your brain.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely.
And so I believe
I like that
you
thought.
can control your thought. You can control your thinking.
Yeah.
But you got to slow down first to.
You got to be aware of it. You got to know what you're thinking.
You got to build awareness. Most people don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And that's that inner dialogue. And so that's how we change those negative thinking patterns, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you had, I'm curious, like in one of your sessions, have you had a moment where, you've brought this client all the way to the finish line. They finally like got it. And they were making all this progress, and whether it was like, saying, self-affirmations or, they've been working out and they're feeling good and you're seeing it and you're hearing it from them. Like, do you have like a story or like one moment that stands out in your career where you can say like, you brought this person in and then, 6 weeks later he was feeling X and he was great and you sent them off like, your kid at college or something like that?
Mm-hmm. So I don't work with my clients until they have have results, right? Like that they have to have the result that they want.
Mm-hmm.
And so typically, how do I know if someone has the result, right? Because what I'm teaching is not tangible. You can't see it, you can't feel it, you can't hold it, right? And so this is why coaching with me is a process. It takes time.
Mm-hmm.
Rewiring those neural pathways. I have to rewire those subconscious beliefs. How do I know that someone has it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't just give you a pill and be like, okay, here you go, Tony. You're good. Your life's great. Perfect, right? This is a lifestyle. Have you adopted this way of thinking? Is this tattooed in your brain that you get it, right? And so I will say around session 6 or 7 is typically when things start to shift and click within my clients.
Okay.
Interesting.
And their life skyrockets.
Right.
I will say this though. I had a hard time in the beginning of my business because I'm a very passionate person, and I care probably sometimes a little too much. And so I would walk these people through my whole coaching program, and then they didn't continue with the lifestyle. So I made it mean something about myself, like, oh, I failed them. I didn't do a good job. And what I realized, not everybody is always like, here's the thing. People can be good when they're working with a coach, right? Like if you're working with me one-to-one and we're meeting every week, they're good, right? Because they're being held accountable.
Right.
That's great, but I don't care about that. I want to know after the fact, are you still living that lifestyle? Are you still being disciplined? Do you still implement these things? And sometimes people don't. And so instead of myself taking it personal as a coach, I have to let that go and realize, okay, I did the best that I can. Hopefully some of the stuff that I taught them resonated.
Yeah.
And because everyone's disciplined.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I mean, and
it's like anything.
Yeah, it just doesn't come. But what would you say to like a listener tonight that hasn't made that step, and to cultivate right now, or just a first step, or even a tip to cultivate a greater self-love, whether it be like affirmations or self-care activity of some sort. We talked about the gym and eating and diet. What would be like your one best tip that you could say right now, and start with this or try this?
First of all, I just got to say something about affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
Affirmations don't work unless you believe them.
Right.
Okay? I don't care how many freaking times you write them out and you say, I am this, I am that. If you don't believe it, it's a waste of time.
Right.
And so what does that tell me? Your belief system needs fixing, right?
Right.
One thing I would give to anyone is be a little bit nicer to yourself. Have just this much more compassion for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
The same amount of compassion that you would show a friend, show it to yourself. Just ask him for this much, right? Don't be so hard on yourself. You're human. We all make mistakes. And that's okay, right? Like, it's okay to fall down in life, because we will fall down. That is life, right?
Yeah.
We'll fall down.
Absolutely.
The thing is, how quickly can you get back up?
Right.
Don't stay down. Get back up. You have the resiliency to be able to get back up, right? But you gotta wanna.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would think, part of that, or a lot of that, would be creating a more positive and supportive environment for yourself, whether that be, family, friends, career, whatever that is. I mean, embrace that.
Probably taking a deeper look about, who's in your circle too, like Rebecca said earlier.
Yeah.
Right.
But
who do you want to spend that energy with or on?
But not even that. Like, nothing's, let's just say you don't have the opportunity to change your environment.
Right.
You don't have the money. You can't leave home. You're, like, you're stuck. Well,
yeah, it's true. It's true.
The biggest thing that I work on and teach people is you got to change your belief system. You got to believe that you are worthy of it and you deserve it. And if you don't, nothing is going to change. You will stay stuck living that miserable, unhappy, depressed life. Change your belief system in the way that you look at life, right? In the way that you look at yourself. Everybody is inherently worthy and deserving of love. That is your birthright. I don't care who you are. You're deserving of that. And how do you teach a man that, right? And so the idea behind that is when you start to believe that you're worthy of it, guess what? Your thoughts start to change. And then what happens from there? Your actions and your behaviors start to change, and you start doing a little more things for yourself that are healthy in that direction.
Right.
This is how you get to the root of it. You can't band-aid it and mask it and be like, I'm going to do affirmations. I'm going to go to the gym. Those are all great things and they're great tools, but you have to believe it first.
Yeah.
And we all go.
I feel like I've had a wonderful session tonight. Where do I send the chat?
That's right.
Yeah. No, great information. But I wanted to. You mentioned something in the beginning of the. I don't know if it was off when we weren't live or the beginning. I forget. But you were talking about you were doing a retreat or something like that. Can you talk about that, like what that involves?
Yeah. So I'm doing a retreat in Miami in 2 weeks. I'm going to have a small group of men come down, and we are going to have a workshop and training and powwow, right? And a lot of my clients have wanted to meet me in person, and I don't do that because everything's online, and I have a lot of, clients all over the country. So I felt like this was an opportunity to allow them to meet me in person and to have that impact of what it's like to have that transformation in person, right?
Yeah.
And to walk away with that. So it's going to be really powerful. We're going to have great food, a sunset sail, and just hopefully walk away with some really big transformations and a roadmap. So,
is this your first retreat that you're doing, Rebecca?
no, this is not this. I've done
So you've been in a couple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. That's
And
exciting.
there'll be more.
Yeah, great.
They're super fun. I think the synergy of when you're together in person,
Right.
it's pretty magical.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie. And I love the intimate, the small groups, because when you go to a conference, you're just a number, right? And sure, you may take stuff away from it and you'll learn a few things, but are you really going to remember and implement?
Yeah. Well, I think in this case, it should be intimate. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
agree with that.
excited. I'm really excited to do this, and I think it's going to be a great event.
Good, good. That's
Well,
exciting.
Project Y is a support system for everything we discuss. So please, send me a link when you have another retreat or something. Send us links. We'd love to get them out there. We want to be a resource for guys or anyone, quite frankly, that needs help. We're not going to turn women away. But yeah, please keep us posted on everything you're doing. And before we sign off, I wanted to just make sure I've got some of your socials and your website correct, so people know how to find you and how to get more information, so they can engage with you and get started on that road for self-love and changing their mindset. So website is realwithrebecca.com, correct?
For now.
Okay. For now.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. We're going to stay in touch, and we're going to keep everything up to date as much as we can. And where else can everyone find you? I think Instagram, correct?
I would not say Instagram. Honestly, if you get in touch with me, you find me on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah.
LinkedIn. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's how I found you. Yeah. Absolutely.
LinkedIn's been a godsend, I will say, for business. It's been great. And for networking. So LinkedIn, you can find me at Rebecca Schocker, right?
Yeah.
And I would say if you are truly interested, there's obviously a button under my features that you can book a call with me, right? Book a call. We're going to have a complimentary discovery call. You can ask me questions. I'll explain my services. It's about 15, 20 minutes, and then you can see if it's a good fit. I'm not for everybody, so just keep that in mind. Like, it's very a select group of people. I'm super serious about who I work with. And you could do it that way, or you can message me and just say you're interested. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. That's Rebecca Schocker, or at Real with Rebecca on Instagram.
Yes. And let me say your last name spelled SCHOCK.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because I misspelled it a few times. Guys, take that first step. I mean, there's nothing wrong with, that first phone call, getting familiar with Rebecca and getting familiar with yourself, quite frankly. But I do want to thank you again, Rebecca, for coming on tonight. It was a great show. I think I was like kind of so interested in everything you were saying. I learned a lot tonight. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. It was amazing. Yeah, it was a good show. A lot of good information. When's your book coming out?
Oh, that's been a question for many, many years.
I'm sure.
It's on my ass to sit down and write it.
That's not the easy part, right? Yeah,
absolutely. I do want to say this. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for letting me speak. I am truly grateful. Number two, I want men to know that just because you seek a mentor or a coach, that doesn't mean something's wrong with you, right?
Right.
I don't think anything's wrong with you. It's about upgrading your identity and how you see yourself. So I like to call this the 2.0 version, right?
Yes.
Doesn't mean you have problems. I mean, we all have stuff, but
we all have problems, right?
Yeah.
Wrong with you, right?
Right.
Coaching and investing in yourself is the best investment anyone can make for themselves.
Sure. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I love those final thoughts, and please put some of those quotes you said today on your bio, or at least send them to me so I could say I thought of them.
Yes.
I don't even remember what I said.
Yeah, I got a couple written. But anyway, thank you again, Rebecca. It was a pleasure. I hope to have you again here soon. I think we can dive into one of these subtopics for a whole hour and just concentrate on that, because I think, as we get feedback from people after the show, and we'll see what people are thinking, which parts they want more information on, we can kind of narrow that down.
Yeah.
But stay warm in your part of the world, and we'll definitely try to get you on again soon. And then, guys, that's going to do it for us tonight on the YCast. Special thanks to RCJ Productions, Keith and Lindsay, our producers, who do an amazing job for us, and we would not be here without those guys. So thank you, guys. Keith, you there?
I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I want to make
Appreciate
sure you're there.
Keith fell asleep on you.
No, I didn't.
Only when Tony started talking.
I was talking to you, probably.
No, it wasn't you. It was Tony.
No. It's always me. That's always me. Encourage you guys to go to our YouTube page and like and subscribe. It really helps us grow. We want to help more people, and want to have more guests on like Rebecca. So please subscribe. We got some great merchandise on the website currently right now, projectwidenow.com. We got some really cool t-shirts, guys and girls. And like I said, in a few weeks, we'll be launching our products, our anti-aging cream, our shampoo, and our tightening serum. Great products, and we'll be advertising that soon on LinkedIn. So check that out. Our YouTube channel at the YCast, Instagram Project Y Now, Facebook Project Y, LinkedIn Project Y Now, and TikTok Project Y Now. That'll do it for tonight, guys. And also download our app. You can get that on the App Store or Google Play. And we'll see you on the 26th of February. Will be the next episode 6 of the YCast. Thank you, guys. Good night, and be safe.
Yep. Thank you.